Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rusty Horn Weekly Tournament brought to you by Random CS. We've got quarterfinals, semifinals, and a finals match to cast tonight, and we will crown a winner by the end of it all. The first match we have for you tonight will be Prudish versus Nico Story in a best of 3 series. We're looking to start off with Prudish versus Nico, and then we will move pretty quickly into the semifinal as well as final matches. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be pretty consistent Hearthstone action for you tonight, and we're glad you've joined us here on the Random Championship Series Rusty Horn Weekly. So we're pretty excited to bring you the Random Championship Series Rusty Horn Tournament. As I said, it's a weekly tournament. It's open to everyone, no matter your rank. If you want to go to our website at www.randomcs.com, you can look for the Rusty Horn Weekly Series and sign up for the tournament via Battlefy. Also, if you're interested in League of Legends, we do plenty of League of Legends tournaments. There are tons to sign up for, anything from gold to platinum level to even ARAMs. So please browse our tournament selections and make your choice. And we'd love to see you here on the Rusty Horn Weekly Series. We're gonna go to a brief break really quickly while we get the lobby set up. So I will be right back with you very shortly. Thanks for standing by. All right, everyone, it's time to get into the first round of the quarterfinals of the Rusty Horn Weekly Tournament. Again, this tournament will feature Nico Story playing his rogue deck against Prudish's Druid. We'll be looking to see how the rogue deck stacks up against the Druid in this particular matchup. This opening hand for Prudish, not looking so great initially. We see a Shade of Naxxramas as a 3-drop. That's okay, but a 7-drop and a 5-drop in your opening hand, especially when you're going first, isn't what you want to see. So we'll likely see mulligans out of Prudish as he moves to pick up earlier game cards against this rogue deck. We see the hand of Nico Story is he mulligans out 2 cards, and he picks up a Piloted Shredder as well as an Eviscerate. He's got Preparation and Sap in his hand, tons of spells to deal with those early game cards from Prudish's Druid. Prudish will end up trading out and receiving a Mind Control Tech, a Sylvanas Windrunner, and Wild Growth. We see Prudish pass on his turn 1, but we see him pick up a Zombie Chow. He'll elect to play the Wild Growth and pass. Favoring the Ramp Druid style, he's going to try and gain as much mana as he can to drop big game cards on this rogue. We see another pass out of Nico Story. He opts for a weapon and a pass. And we'll see what Prudish decides to do in retaliation. None playing minions so far, but Prudish elects to drop the Zombie Chow and armor up and pass for the Druid. He'll take a hit onto Nico Story, trying to apply some early game pressure given that Nico Story has developed a border yet. So he's looking to apply as much pressure as he can initially out the gate before the rogue gets set up in the later stages of the game. We see a coined out Piloted Shredder from Nico Story. That's pretty strong given that the only minion on the board for Prudish is a Zombie Chow. We'll look to see how Prudish answers. He likes to go with a Sludge Belcher and applying again pressure to the face, looking to rush down the rogue before he gets into combo range. We really start to see the rogue spells play a factor later in the game. Nico Story going to send back the Sludge Belcher, removing that taunt from the board, instead going to elect to go with a Deadly Poison onto his weapon and likely take care of that Zombie Chow, and he does. So he'll get 5 health back from the Zombie Chow, and the Piloted Shredder goes to the face to apply some pressure on the other side. So we see a Sylvanas Windrunner drop from Prudish. He's going to drop Sylvanas to apply pressure to the board as it's needed against this Piloted Shredder in this very aggressive opening from the rogue. Nico Story is going to elect to prep and sprint. He'll actually draw his second sprint. He'll draw an SI7, an Azure Drake, and a South Sea deckhand as well. Pretty good draws. Mostly aggressive cards coming out from the sprint. We'll see a backstab onto Sylvanas. He'll likely want to trade in to get rid of the Sylvanas as quickly as possible so that he doesn't drop any higher level cards and run the risk of losing them to Sylvanas' mind control effect. So we see a Flame Tongue Totem out of the Piloted Shredder for Prudish. Again, not very effective. Nico Story electing to use his final charge of his dagger and take away that Flame Tongue Totem before Prudish can use it for any of his powerful drops that we see in his hand. We see that he's got an Ancient of Lore. He elects to play a Lotheb as well as a Zombie Chow. Again, trying to assert pressure. The Lotheb especially prevalent against a rogue because of all of those rogue spells you see in his hand now cost 5 mana more, thus pushing the rogue out of the ability to combo multiple Eviscerates or multiple spells on top of each other. South Sea Deckhand will come out. He has charge due to the rogue's weapon. as well as the SI7 agent will come out to damage Lotheb. Going to try and get rid of Lotheb as best he can. He trades in the South Sea Deckhand as well as 1 charge off of his weapon. Again, taking 5 damage to the face. But the Zombie Chow on Prudish's board allows him a little bit of leniency because he knows he's going to get that 5 health back. Prudish trades in the Zombie Chow against the SI7 agent, taking it down to 1 health. He elects to use his hero ability and clear the SI7 agent, as well as drop the Sludge Belcher onto the clear board to further insulate his health from any more damage from this face rogue. Eviscerate off of the combo will deal 5 damage to the Sludge Belcher, revealing a 1/2 slime, still with taunt. So Nico is going to have to get through the 1/2 with taunt in order to continue to do damage to Prudish. Prudish considering dropping the Ancient of War, electing to go with the rooted version, the +5 health and taunt version. We seem to have a bit of a glitch with the Ancient of War. Its card's kind of sticking up on the board. Apologize for that. We'll see if we can't get that sorted out. See. Okay. Pause for just a second, guys. I'm going to drop out. We're going to rejoin in on Prudish and Nico story so that we can get rid of that issue there with the cards staying on the board. I apologize for that. We want to make sure that we can see both players' cards immediately as we go. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about the technical glitches there. Again, Ancient of War being played by Prudish. Going to elect to go in the rooted form again and use that 5 attack, 10 health taunt creature to try and put a barrier between he and Nico story. The Blingatron comes out and manages to give the Prudish the Assassin's Blade, and he actually gives Nico the Gladiator or the Eaglehorn bow. So Blingatron not really favoring Nico story in his battle cry. Kind of gave him the short end of the stick, giving him only a 3 attack weapon with 2 durability. But Nico story is going to use the Blingatron to get the combo off of the Eviscerate, deal 5 damage to the Ancient of War, and successfully clear it by trading in an Azure Drake and go to the face with his Eaglehorn bow. We'll look to see how Prudish answers. Looking to elect to go with the Sludge Belcher. Drops the Sludge Belcher again. Multiple taunts coming out from this Druid, really trying to make sure that there's a taunt barrier between he and this rogue, and the really aggressive style from the rogue. We see a much more defensive style coming from the Druid, which can work, but we see the aggression starting to overshadow all of the defensive cards from the Druid. Another sprint comes out. He actually draws his Edwin Van Cleef, which is really strong. If he can play multiple cards in the same turn, he draws his Oil card as well. That'll help him try and initiate some combos and get some major damage coming in the next few rounds. Considering a Blade Flurry to get rid of his Eaglehorn bow. And it looks like that's going to be a pretty solid option. Try and get rid of this Belcher, but he's also got to get through the slime that will appear after the Belcher's been killed. Nico story instead is going to opt for the Dread Corsair, which is a 3/3 with taunt. If reduced, the Dread Corsair has reduced mana costs based on the attack of your weapon. So the Dread Corsair is going to be much cheaper for him. He does elect to go with the Blade Flare to get rid of that Eaglehorn bow and trade in the Blingatron onto the Sludge Belcher and the Slime, successfully cleaning out Prudish's board. Prudish is going to answer with a Wrath onto the Dread Corsair to get rid of the taunt, and will elect to play an Ancient of Lore onto the board as well. He clears out both the Dread Corsair and the Blingatron, and uses the Ancient of Lore in healing mode. Instead of drawing the cards, he'll elect to restore 5 health. We see another Dread Corsair coming out. Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil is going to actually land on the SI7. And it's looking like dire straits, and that'll be it for Prudish. Game number 1 going to Nico Story and his aggressive Oil Rogue. We saw an absolutely incredible start to our first quarterfinal match. And we will see, again, the series is a best of 3 until the finals match, and then it will be a best of 5. So Prudish has been defeated once, but he can come back. He can start a comeback. Prudish's decks are, he's looking to play his Paladin or Warrior deck now. Nico is looking to play either his Hunter or Warlock deck. We're about to get into game number 2. And we'll see what game number 2 has for both of these contestants. We see Prudish favoring his Druid deck again, and Illyria actually coming out for Nico's Hunter deck. It's the first new champion we've seen in the RCS. But we'll see if his Hunter deck stacks up. We've seen an aggressive play from Nico's Rogue, so we can only assume that his Hunter deck is going to be Face Hunter. Prudish looking to mulligan out some cards in favor, probably a more favorable hand, looking probably to get rid of the Ancient of Lore and the Sylvanas. Again, he does. He draws into Zombie Chow, Shade of Noxramas, and a Wild Growth with Wrath. That's a pretty good early board to try and put some aggression out. But this Face Hunter is absolutely starting to roll, even on turn 1, dropping a Leper Gnome to start the match. We see in his hand, he's also got the Abusive Sergeant and the Haunted Creeper. Those I can only assume are going to come out in the next few stages and apply more and more pressure to this Druid. A Zombie Chow opener from Prudish, we saw that in game 1. Worked out pretty well, and actually worked to Nico's advantage to have a Zombie Chow start. So we'll see if he elects to just go face. He trades in the Leper Gnome to face, and we'll see if he continues face aggression or if he'll eventually start trading the board. The thing about Face Hunter is that as soon as his cards start trading the board, Face Hunter value in cards goes down immensely. Prudish elects to go with a 3 damage Wrath and take care of that Mad Scientist. Trades in the Zombie Chow, but triggers the Freezing Trap from the Mad Scientist. Zombie Chow will come back, cost 2 mana more. He'll go up to a 3 cost. Both Haunted Creeper and Abusive Sergeant coming out on the board on turn 3 for Nico Story. Using that Abusive Sergeant power up on the Leper Gnome to deal 4 damage to Prudish this time instead of 2. Prudish is looking to draw into Swipe or anything to deal with this board as Face Hunter just churns out more and more cards to populate the board as much as he can and go face as much as he can. The hands are currently favoring Prudish as he's got essentially 5 cards to 2, but we see constant aggression coming from Nico Story. Absolutely going to favor Nico Story if Prudish can't develop his board. He's looking to use that Ancient of War as quickly as he can, put out a big taunt to try and stop this aggressive Face Hunter deck. It looks like he might be able to do it. Instead, he's going to actually use his Druid of the Claw and choose to go with the 2 health taunt version. Try and stop some of this bleeding that the Face Hunter is using. And Face Hunter is currently inflicting a ton of pain. See a trade from the Piloted Shredder and trade-ins from the Spectral Spiders left over from the Haunted Creeper. A Sludge Belcher coming out for Face Hunter. That'll just insulate him from taking any damage to the face. Hopefully putting a barrier while he manages to recoup his board and redevelop his board. Shade of Noxramas coming out for Prudish. That's an excellent card, but I don't know if he's going to have enough time, given that he's already at 18 health. He's going to need to stabilize so that that Shade of Noxramas can grow into something terrible. You see, Hunter Companion actually produces Huffer of all things, and we'll see nothing but face coming from Nico as he pushes the aggression and pushes Prudish down to 6 health. 6 health remaining. 1, 3, 6, 10 damage on the board, plus 2 from his hero ability. 12 damage staring at him right now. He's going to need to absolutely clear this board if he's going to survive any longer. Prudish considering the Ancient of War in health and taunt mode, and that's an absolutely great play to try and soak some of this damage from the board. Prudish calling well played already. I guess he assumes the worst. Nico Story is going to play Haunted Creeper as well as the Eaglehorn Bow. Go with the hero power to do 2 damage, regardless of taunts on the board. But he has to trade in the rest of his board if he wants to get through this Ancient of War. Prudish is hoping that anything at this point. He can play a Sludge Belcher, but he's absolutely dead to the Hunter hero power. There's no way to avoid that 2 damage for 2 mana coming from Nico Story. I believe this game is just about wrapped up. Prudish looking to try and figure out something, any kind of play that he can do to maybe hopefully bamboozle Nico Story and maybe throw him off his game, and maybe Nico doesn't realize he's got a 2 damage hero power sitting right over to the left of his portrait, but we'll see. Considering the Sludge Belcher for the taunt. Going to play out the Sludge Belcher. Unfortunately, the Shade of Noxramas just came too late in this game. Wasn't able to get it out early enough. The Shade of Noxramas needs to be developed really early in the game and let him become a monster in the late game. Just wasn't able to get out there and start him climbing up in health and attack damage.
Well played.
Both well plays being called from Nico and Prudish. Looking to trade out damage on the board, and he'll actually take the suicide option against the Sludge Belcher. So that's it for round number 2. Nico Story carries round number 2. We will get in. So that concludes Nico Story versus Prudish. Nico Story sweeping the series 2-0 against Prudish. We will move into our semifinal, our first semifinal match of the night very shortly. We'll be right back after a brief break. Thanks for staying with us.
They say you're only young once, but we live for it, we die for it, we live for forever. They say you're only young once, but we live for it, we live
can't find my way back to you till you make amends with the demons you've been through. I can't regret leaving you alone till you find your way back home. Till you find your way back home. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown.
I will fight with honor. Let the hunt begin.
Until you find your way back home. I can't regret leaving you alone till you find your way back home.
There are lots of things that are easy, like
Okay, guys, sorry about that. Sorry about the technical delays. We're actually going to jump right into the second quarterfinal match, which is Supremacy versus Seamau. So we're going to take you right into the action, actually a little bit into it, and we'll actually jump in on turn 3. So we're from the vantage point of Supremacy, who is a paladin fighting Seamau's hunter deck. Both playing knife jugglers, as well as Supremacy putting out a shielded mini-bot. Luckily got a knife juggle off onto the right minion and took out the web spinner, but that did produce a beast for Seamau's hand. So we'll see how Seamau elects to respond.
My side.
Seamau actually plays Animal Companion and gets Huffer of all Animal Companions, the lovely Huffer coming out. A charge with 4 attack, 2 health, and he plays a young Dragonhawk as well, a 1 attack with Wind Fury minion. Likes to go Huffer to the face, and apply pressure to Supremacy's Paladin deck, leaving the shielded minibot with his Divine Shield intact. Shielded minibot will clear Huffer using the Divine Shield to remain on the board. Supremacy will play his Hero Power, creating a 1/1 Silverhand Recruit. Seamal going to play another Animal Companion, this time getting Misha instead. 4/4 with Taunt is okay, but not exactly what he wanted to see. Probably would have liked another Huffer to keep applying that base Hunter aggression. We see in Supremacy's hand, he's got an Ironbeak Owl, a Lotheb, an Aldor Peacekeeper, an Anti-Killbot, Harrison Jones, and he just drew Consecration. Going to elect to play the Aldor Peacekeeper to drop Misha down to 1 attack, 4 health, trade in the Shielded Minibot. Shielded Minibot will stay on the board, and hopefully that forces Misha to only trade with the Silverhand Recruit if Seamal elects to trade anything. Plays a Houndmaster to boost Misha back up to 3 health, or 4 health, 3 attack, and he'll clear out the Aldor Peacekeeper with that, reducing Misha back down to 1 health. We'll see how Supremacy decides to answer, drawing a Sludge Belcher. Be a pretty good draw, and possibly a pretty good play, given that he's at 20 health and he's yet to scratch Seamal's health. He's staring at a 3/1 taunt on the board, as well as a 4/3 minion next to it. He does elect to play the Sludge Belcher, using that 3/5 taunt, as well as the 1/2 taunt behind the Sludge Belcher in the form of the Slime. We'll see what Seamal elects to answer, how Seamal elects to answer. He'll play actually a Savannah Highmane, 6/5 with a Death Rattle that summons 2 Hyenas on the board. Pretty intimidating card, given that it's got 6 attack already, and that it also has the Death Rattle of summoning Hyenas. In response, Supremacy will play the Ironbeak Owl, or considering playing the Ironbeak Owl, which would be a pretty good play. Get rid of that Scar and make sure that the Savannah Highmane can't continue to harass you even from beyond the grave, which seems like Savannah Highmane often does. Seamal down to 3 cards against Supremacy's 5, but the odds look to be in Seamal's favor at the moment, given that he's reduced the Paladin down to 20 health. He does elect to play the Ironbeak Owl, and he'll actually Consecrate as well, reducing that Houndmaster down to 1 health, and the Savannah Highmane down to 3. He'll trade in the Sludge Belcher, still getting that 1/2 Slime taunt after trading in the Sludge Belcher, but it does clear Seamal's board completely. Seamal had another Savannah Highmane in hand. Plays his Hunter ability to deal 2 damage to the face. That'll be it for Seamal's turn. Pretty intimidating to see another Savannah Highmane just after you neutralized 1 Savannah Highmane. You don't see any answers currently available in Supremacy's hand to neutralize this new Savannah Highmane threat. But we do see Muster for Battle, which he could be holding on to wait for combo with a Quartermaster if he needs to. Otherwise, he's just going to use the Ironbeak Owl and the Slime to apply pressure to the face. Try and avoid that Savannah Highmane. Just pretend that it's not there and that you're not, that you don't have to worry about it. Eventually going to have to deal with it. 6/5 on Seamal's board is pretty intimidating. A 3/5 with Taunt to protect the 6/5 is also very intimidating. Hero ability going to reduce Supremacy down to 16 health. Regardless of taunts or anything else on the board, that hero ability for 2 mana for the Hunter can always deal 2 damage to the opponent. We see now on Supremacy's board, he's got 10 damage facing Seamal. He's looking to play Muster for Battle to spawn out 3 Silverhand Recruits, each one triggering the Knife Juggler's Battle Cry, throwing 2 knives into the Savannah Highmane and 1 into the Sludge Belcher. That's a favorable trade, so he'll use Lotheb to clear out the Sludge Belcher. Likely will use the Knife Juggler again to trade into the Slime that was left over, and use the Ironbeak Owl to get rid of Scar. There are the 2/2 Hyenas that Highmane spawns. He'll get rid of him with a Consecrate, and it looks like he's going to face with his Light's Justice that was spawned from the Muster for Battle. Using another Silverhand Recruit, almost filling up his board. He's now got 6 minions on the board compared to Seamouth's none. For a Face Hunter, that's pretty terrifying to just have no minions on the board facing 4 damage and then some from the Paladin. Lotheb coming out from Seamow. Unleash the Hounds also coming out. Each of those is a 1/1 dog with charge. He will likely clear most of this board using the Hounds from Unleash the Hounds. He'll take Supremacy down to 2 Silverhand Recruits, as well as his Light's Justice for a weapon. Supremacy going to play that anti-kill bot, restore 8 health to himself, try and get back up into a comfortable health pool so that he's not as in danger of Face Hunter's massive damage. We see both players now down to 1 card. Supremacy holding on to his Harrison Jones and electing to wait to see for an Eaglehorn bow or any weapon from Seamow to try and get that battle cry from Harrison Jones. Secret played by the Mad Scientist. And actually, Seamow plays Dr. Boom, dropping out 2 Boom bots as well as Dr. Boom himself, the 7/7. He elects to go to the face again with his Hunter ability, dealing 2 more damage to Supremacy in the process. Lucky draw from Supremacy there, drawing an Aldor Peacekeeper, nullifying Dr. Boom's attack from 7 to 1. Freezing Trap's going to force that Silverhand Recruit back into Supremacy's hand. He'll go from 1 mana to 3 mana because of the Freezing Trap cost. He'll likely play that out just to get rid of it again. That was a test for Freezing Trap before he traded in the Piloted Shredder. He'll remove Lotheb with the Piloted Shredder and actually get a Murloc Raider in from the Piloted Shredder's Death Rattle. Looking like a pretty favorable position for Supremacy at the moment, given that Dr. Boom has been neutralized and reduced to 1 health. Sylvanas coming out from Seamow. Pretty intimidating play, though there's nothing that Sylvanas can really steal of impact on Supremacy's board at the moment. Dr. Boom will trade into the Murloc, and the Boombots will trade into 1 Boombot, will trade in the Silverhand Recruit, using that Death Rattle to take out the other one. Second Boombot will go face. A pass from Seamow. Coghammer coming from Supremacy. Wouldn't be that bad of a play. Battlecry gives a random minion Divine Shield and Taunt. So that could be pretty intimidating onto the Aldor Peacekeeper, which is the only minion it can give Divine Shield and Taunt to. That would allow the Aldor Peacekeeper a bit of saving grace against the Sylvanas and Dr. Boom combo, though we'll likely see the Boombot trade in on the Aldor Peacekeeper's Divine Shield if he elects to use the Coghammer. Supremacy does use the Coghammer. He will give the Aldor Peacekeeper Divine Shield and Taunt. He'll take the Divine Shield and use it to attack Sylvanas, reducing her to 2 health, electing to use the Coghammer's damage to take out the Boombot. 2 damage from the Boombot does go onto Supremacy's face, and that will likely be it from Supremacy this round. We'll see how Seamow elects to respond in this next turn. There is an Eaglehorn bow playing right into the hands of Harrison Jones for the next turn for Supremacy, and he'll actually use 1 charge to get rid of the Aldor Peacekeeper and start to go face with the hero ability and Dr. Boom and Sylvanas, reducing Supremacy down to 6 health. And the equality draw for Supremacy. That's an absolutely critical draw, though he's already used his Consecrates, so he can't clear this board. It would be incredible if he'd have drawn Consecrate and Equality and he'd have been able to neutralize this board without sacrificing any minions till Sylvanas. Fortunately, he's going to have to play Harrison Jones to get rid of that Eaglehorn bow and hopefully try and get rid of some of this damage on the board, though it's not looking good for Supremacy. Fortunately, I don't know that there's a way that Supremacy can walk away from this turn. He draws the Dr. Boom, but it's a little too late because Harrison Jones costs 5 mana, thus not allowing him to play Dr. Boom right after Harrison Jones. That might have helped save him, might have taken it, but Supremacy is going to concede defeat and SEMA will actually take the series 2-1. So that concludes our quarterfinal matches, and an absolutely stunning play from both Supremacy and CMAO. And we will see CMAO go on to face Nico Story in the semifinal match. We will see which one actually comes out on top. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. This is the Rusty Horn Weekly Series brought to you by Random Championship Series. Please visit us at randomcs.com and look for your chance to enter into the Rusty Horn tournament yourself and show us your decks. We'll be right back after this break.
Breathing, having a name, living on Earth. So is entering. Corona's new.
Alrighty, guys, and welcome back to the Rusty Horn Weekly Series. This time, we'll be in the semifinals match, Damon versus Nico's Story. We're going to take you right into the action. This will be a best-of-5 series between Damon and Nico's Story. This is round 1, Warlock versus Warrior. The winner of the match must switch their deck. The loser can switch their deck, but is not obligated to do so. We see a round 1 Voidwalker play coming from Nico's Story, and a round 1 coin Fiery Winaxe coming from Damon. Nerubian Egg coming out from Nico's Story, and he's going to pass on turn 2, hoping to get an activator, and an Abusive Sergeant would be just the activator he needs to activate that Nerubian Egg and pull out that 4/4 Nubar Ambusher. We see 2 Imp Gang bosses as well as Abusive Sergeant coming from Nico's Story, and Damon electing to armor up and pass, not wanting to clear out that Nerubian Egg because he knows he'll face a 4/4 Nerubian on the other side of that egg. Imp Gang boss coming from Nico's Story, and no activation on the Nerubian Egg yet. Still looking, hoping that maybe Damon will trade into the Nerubian Egg, though an Imp Gang boss is a much more favorable trade for Damon at this point with his Fiery War Axe. Early aggression has put Nico 1 health point above Damon, though effectively Damon has 31 hit points to Nico's 30. Defender of Argus, another great way to activate that Nerubian Egg coming from Nico's Story on that last draw. Easy way to activate it. You don't even have to give it attack, just give it a taunt and force the warrior to trade into the Nerubian Egg is what you want to do to get that 4/4 Nerubian out of that egg. Hoping for favorable imps coming from the Imp Gang boss. Only going to get 2 out of it before he dies, but we see an Acolyte of Pain from Damon. Hopefully setting up, most likely Damon playing the Grim Patron Warrior, which is so popular in Hearthstone these days. The Acolyte of Pain is one way to draw into the winning combo that he needs for his Patron Warrior combo. Haunted Creeper being drawn from Nico's Story. Pretty good draw, but early pressure again, but he's looking to get rid of this Acolyte of Pain as quickly as he can so that you minimize the effectiveness of the draws from the Acolyte of Pain in favor of Damon. Again, you're watching the Rusty Horn Weekly Series from Random Championship Series. If you want to go onto our website, randomcs.com. You too can sign up for the Rusty Horn Weekly Championship. Enter to win in this tournament. Bring your decks. Any combination, doesn't matter. No restrictions, no level restrictions, no rank restrictions. Doesn't matter. Open to everyone. You too could be the winner of next week's Rusty Horn Weekly. Be sure to check out Random CS on Twitter and on Facebook. If you want to look us up on either of those, just use twitter.com/esportsrcs or facebook.com/esportsrcs. There's a newsletter available on the Facebook page. If you'd like to sign up for it, you can receive active information from Random CS, such as news about future tournaments or any news in the Random CS tournament world. We see the Defender of Argus has activated both the Imp Gang boss and the Nerubian Egg. He got that activation. He's got 1 damage from that Nerubian Egg and 3 damage on his Imp Gang boss. Luckily, he added health to the Imp Gang boss, making it 3/2, and then using it to attack in, creating yet another Imp. He's going to get a 3rd Imp, but that Imp Gang boss is finally going to fall. Damon electing to take 1 charge off of his Death's Bite, leaving 1 charge left, and that Death Rattle activation on the Death's Bite, most likely next turn, to clear out all these imps and lessen this board. Nico having no choice but to go face to apply pressure to Damon, trying to push that warrior down below the health that is comfortable for warriors, and hopefully going to try and put pressure on him to not utilize the Grim Patron combo as effectively as he could. We see Lord Jirax is drawn from Nico's story. That'll be pretty good if he starts to take enough damage later on. But currently, Lord Jirax is almost useless, given that he's a 9 mana cost, and he'll reduce Nico's story down to 15 health if played right now. So not in favor right now, Nico's story, of playing Lord Jiraxis, but later on when Damon potentially gets his combo cards out, might see Lord Jiraxis being played very quickly by the Warlock to maintain his health pool. Damon taking his time considering his options, weighing all of his options of whether or not he wants to play Death's Bite into one of these minions to trigger that Whirlwind Death Rattle. Looks like he's going to elect to actually proc the Nerubian Egg on the 4/4. The Whirlwind will then proc, clear out all of the Imp minions, and then he'll actually elect to execute the Nerubian that spawned from the egg. Pretty interesting play. He plays a Gnomish Inventor right behind it to draw that card and get something out on the board in terms of presence. We see a Knife Juggler and an Abusive Sergeant being played by Nico Story. He gets the juggle onto the Gnomish Inventor. He'll get 2 additional juggles from the Spectral Spiders being played after the Haunted Creeper dies. And both of those will have to go face because Damon has no other minions on his board. Lots of pressure being applied by Nico Story here. Very aggressive opener. He drew into the right cards. He's playing the right cards and just keeping the pressure pretty consistent on this warrior. He's not giving him a chance to stabilize. He's not giving him a chance to breathe and build that armor that the warrior needs to stabilize and begin creating the combos that the warrior needs. Dr. Boom draw from Neko Story. Pretty good. You may see him played next turn, but pretty large card to be played by an aggressive face warlock. Fiery War Axe coming from Damon, looking to clear out potentially any of the cards on the board. He's actually got the Unstable Ghoul for the Death Rattle, and he will elect to actually hit the Knife Juggler and destroy the Knife Juggler on Nico's board. Flame Imp draw from Nico Story is going to allow him to put some more damage out, but unfortunately he'll have to take damage to the face in order to do so. Nico elects to clear out the Unstable Ghoul, loses his minions in turn, but he keeps that Argent Protector, the Defender of Argus, not the Argent Protector, keeps the Defender of Argus on the board for additional damage. We'll see probably an Inner Rage Execute coming from Damon, and that's indeed what happens. He'll Inner Rage Execute that Dr. Boom to get rid of him and leave only his 2 poor Boombot minions behind. Damon still toting the Fiery War Axe with 1 charge remaining, but probably hoping to use that on something larger than the Boombots or the Defender of Argus. Acolyte of Pain being played by Damon. Hopefully this time he'll get more draws out of it than he did his first Acolyte of Pain that was swiftly cleared off by Nico Story. Damon considering his options, weighing out which ones he can follow up with 3 mana in order to hopefully put more pressure out on this board and distract the Warlock from going face so eagerly as we've seen in the turns before now. He likes to armor up, and he will attack into the Defender of Argus to take it off the board, leaving 2 1/1 Boombots on the board. He'll actually Inner Rage his Acolyte of Pain, drawing 1 card and gaining 2 attack damage on the Acolyte of Pain. Abusive Sergeant draw from Nico Story. He's going to light tap, look for something more. He gets a Power Overwhelming draw, which could help him close the gap on this 10 health warrior and hopefully seal the deal. Doesn't have anything at the moment that's an absolute kill on this turn, but next turn could possibly draw into a demon, seal the deal completely. Weighing his options as to whether or not to play the Flame Imp. Actually going to consider Abusive Sergeant on one of the Boombots. What he will elect to do and trade into the Acolyte of Pain. That bomb is forced to go face and deal 4 damage. Pretty hefty from the Boombots. Absolutely what he wants to see. Looking possibly to play Imp Gang Boss as well. And go face with the final Boombot. Haunted Creeper coming out as well, just trying to throw everything out on the board to intimidate this 5 health warrior and show some muscle, confirm that the Warlock does indeed have the win in hand. Nico calling out a mistake on playing the Haunted Creeper. Damon looking to finally answer with a Battle Rage for 1 draw. 2 mana, draw 1 card. Hoping to draw into an answer, most likely a Whirlwind of some sort, but it's looking pretty bleak for Damon at this moment. Actually plays a Death Spite to clear out the Imp Gang boss, which is going to spawn 1/1/1 Imp and leave the board with 5 damage on the board, which is enough for lethal just on the board. Damon realizes, concedes, and Nico will take the first game in this best of 5 series between Nico, Story, and Damon. So, a really incredible start to the first match. We're quickly going to jump into the second match between Nico, Story, and Damon, and hopefully get you some more quality Hearthstone action. We see Damon electing to go with Druid, and Nico, Story switching to Rogue. So, actually, that's a bit flawed. Nico, Story should be playing his winning deck instead of the Rogue deck. We may have to have a conversation with Nico, Story here in a minute. Nico, Story considering his options on mulligans for his Rogue deck, but Damon hopefully bringing a strong Druid deck to counter the aggressive Warlock that he saw from Nico first game. Just clarifying some technical difficulties here. Nico, Story electing to use his Rogue deck, which I don't believe was supposed to happen. So we're just going to have a chat real quick. Sure that both players. So we're going to play this match as it is, talking with tournament administrators and seeing what the deal is. But Damon, meanwhile, electing to play the Zombie Chow on turn 1 and using his hero power on turn 2 to deal 3 total damage to Nico, Story. Oh, okay. I apologize, guys. I actually had it wrong. Nico, Story was supposed to switch decks, and Damon could switch decks if he elected to, but was not required to. Sorry, the double deck shift confused me there for a second. So we're all good. Nico, Story, both Nico, Story and Damon playing to the rules of the RCS Rusty Horn Weekly Tournament. So we're all good. We see Damon playing an aggressive early Shade of Noxramas. He's hoping to let that Shade of Noxramas use his Battle Cry and gain 1 health, 1 damage each turn, and hopefully turn into something monstrous that he can use against this aggressive Rogue deck. You see a coined out Piloted Shredder coming out against the Zombie Chow and Shade of Noxramas, hopefully trying to put pressure onto the Zombie Chow or onto Damon directly to lessen the impact of that Shade of Noxramas. As the Shade grows each turn, it's going to become more and more of a problem if Nico, Story can't deal with it with any card that he has in hand. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to have anything that's going to deal with it. Piloted Shredder getting killed by Wrath and revealing Millhouse Manastorm of all cards. 4 health, 4 damage card, and a pretty good draw from the Piloted Shredder, in all honesty. About as good as you could ask for. That golden Millhouse Manastorm absolutely showing off with his spell prowess there.
Time waits for no one.
Damon taking his time, considering his options, trying to see what all he can do against this deck, and what all he can do against the Millhouse Manastorm from the Piloted Shredder.
I must save
Electing to innervate Keeper of the Grove and deal 2 damage to Millhouse Manastorm, trading in the Zombie Chow to finally clear out Millhouse Manastorm, giving 5 health back to Nico Story. Preparation draw from Nico Story is going to add to more of those spells in his hand, keeping up with Sap. Dread Corsair discounted 1 mana cost at the moment due to the attack on his weapon. And he's in favor of playing the Dread Corsair, which I can't blame him because it's a 3/3 taunt, and it would put some safety barrier between he and this Keeper of the Grove or any future cards from Daemon. Also, South Sea Deckhand having some synergy with Charge after Nico has his weapon out. He will charge, and he'll actually use an SI7 agent to deal 2 damage to the Keeper of the Grove and trade in the South Sea Deckhand onto the Keeper of the Grove. Again, that Shade of Naxxramas absolutely growing more and more powerful each turn. Now up to 4/4, it'll go up to 5/5 at the end of the next turn and just become monstrous.
Where shall I start?
Druid of the Claw coming out from Daemon, going to turn into a 4/6 with Taunt, which will try and insulate Daemon from any potential damage from Nico Story. Nico Story electing to play an Azure Drake and probably prep eviscerating the Taunt. That's indeed what will happen. And trading in with his weapon to clear out that Taunt. The attack from the SI7 agent is going to go to the face because it cannot attack the Shade of Naxxramas due to the stealth field on the Naxxramas. All minions with stealth are untargetable until the stealth is removed, unless it's an AoE spell like Blizzard or Consecrate. So unfortunately, Nico Story hasn't drawn into his Blade Flurry or Fan of Knives yet, so he cannot remove the stealth from that Naxxramas, that Shade of Naxxramas, and deal with it effectively. Daemon now considering his options, electing to play Emperor Thorsan. He's going to get a discount only on 2 cards, which is not as favorable a discount as you want to see on Emperor Thorsan, but it could help in any situation. 1 mana discount on cards certainly isn't anything to laugh at.
Time waits for no one.
We see Nico Story has Sap, Dread Corsair, Sprint, and Blingtron actually available to him next turn. Wouldn't surprise me if we see Dread Corsair, maybe a Sap on Emperor Thorsan to get him out of there and stop that discount. Azure Drake draw, actually a spell damage +1 and a pretty handy 4/4 minion. Electing to play the Blingatron, and he'll get an Eaglehorn bow, and his opponent will actually get the Gladiator's longbow. 5 damage, 2 durability weapon. That's a pretty unfavorable trade from Blingatron, not being nice with his weapon distributions for Nico Story. Nico Story going to trade into Emperor Thorsan and get rid of him off the board so that no more discounts are available for Daemon. Daemon now in a better position because he's got that 5 damage Gladiator's longbow. He can use it to effectively clear 2 minions, or even go to the face with it if he needs to, but he's got to get through that 3/3 Dread Corsair first. That Shade of Naxxramas continuing to be an absolute monster. And he actually elects to trade into the Dread Corsair with it, and then clean off the Azure Drake with his Gladiator's longbow. This reveals the Shade of Naxxramas as a 6/3 now because he traded into the Dread Corsair. So I would think that Nico Story immediately will make that a priority and try to get through that Sludge Belcher as quickly as he can. Looking to sap that Sludge Belcher, considering it to get access to that 6/3 Shade of Naxxramas and get rid of it before it turns into something even more monstrous than it already has become.
This guy's toast.
Going to use SI7 Agent, go 2 damage to the face, and then elect to use the Eaglehorn Bow to trade off on the Shade of Naxxramas. Blingatron will go to the face, reducing Daemon down to 20 health. Daemon now has 1 charge left on his Gladiator's longbow to take care of any minions or deal face damage if he needs to. And he also has that hero ability to gain 1 armor and 1 additional attack, bringing Daemon's total attack to 6 at the moment with the Gladiator's longbow. Both Sprint and Azure Drake left in Nico Story's hand. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Sprint come out next turn from Nico. He's going to need to draw into more cards because at this point the Druid might be able to stabilize at 20 health, and we see him drawing more cards from that Ancient of Lore. Gladiator's longbow is finally taken out. He uses it to trade off onto Blingatron. So we see Azure Drake being played immediately for that 1 card draw, a Deadly Poison being played, and a Dread Corsair coming out because of the Deadly Poison's effect on his weapon. SI7 will go to the face, and hopefully Nico Story plans for that Dread Corsair to hold off that Ancient of Lore for as long as he can, but that's if Damon doesn't have an answer to the Dread Corsair. Ancient of Lore looks like it will trade into the Dread Corsair, which is a pretty good play. We'll see what additional cards Damon's going to play to apply pressure to the 15 health Rogue.
Where shall I strike?
Going to elect to use the Druid of the Claw in cat form and trade into the Azure Drake to get rid of it, and Wrath off the SI7 agent, fully clearing Nico Story's board, and also using his hero ability to deal 1 damage to Nico's face, keeping that Ancient of Lore on the board as a 5/2. Nico draws his second sap, but he'll immediately play Sprint to hopefully draw into some answer cards, get rid of this Ancient of Lore on the board. He actually draws into both Prep and Eviscerate, as well as Sabotage. He'll play Eviscerate on the combo to deal 4 damage to the Ancient of Lore, and he issues Well Played already, just on turn number 9. Lotheb coming out from Damon, hoping to negate any spells that Nico Story may have, which is actually a pretty good play given that he'll up Preparation and Sabotage's cost both by 5 mana. Lotheb, pretty good play there. Won't allow any crazy combos with Sabotage and Preparation. This one. South Sea Deckhand will have charge based on the fact that Nico Story has a weapon. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see both South Sea Deckhand and Piloted Shredder be played this round. But he'll actually elect to destroy Lotheb with Sabotage. Even eating that 9 mana cost from Lotheb. Just wanting to get rid of it, was concerned about a 5 damage creature staying on the board for Damon. I can't blame him given that he was looking at 9 damage in total on Damon's board. Facing him, that's pretty scary for a rogue already at 14 health. And there's a lot of burst potential from Druid to try and close out the rest of that 5 damage left. We'll see Sledge Belcher go to the face, which is to be expected, and reduce the rogue down to 11 health. Second of Ancient of Lore being played now in healing mode instead. Damon receiving 5 health from that Ancient of Lore, and using his hero ability to go to Nico Story's face once more. We see 10 health versus 23. Nico Story draws into second Deadly Poison, considering whether or not to play Deadly Poison to clear off either of these 2 minions. Instead, he'll play Piloted Shredder and sap the taunt back into Damon's hand. Well, he would sap it. He was considering his options. Looks like he will favor the sap. Get rid of that taunt so that he can expose that 5/5 health Ancient of Lore. Hopefully clear that off the board before it stays to do too much damage. Nico Story is going to elect to use his second Deadly Poison to bring his dagger up to 5 damage. Considering whether or not taking 5 damage to the face to clear that Ancient of Lore is good, it probably is almost necessary at this point to go ahead and clear off that Ancient of Lore. We see 2 damage coming from Damon. He immediately attacks and plays a swipe to end this round. Damon will take round 2, bringing the series to 1-1. Damon will be forced to play his Druid deck next round, but Nico Story can bring any of his decks to the next round. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Winning deck. Winner Damon must play his alternate deck. And it's actually going to be Hunter versus Hunter in game number 3. This is a best of 5 series, and we're only at 1-1 in the series so far, so it really can go either way. We're still looking from the perspective of Nico's story. He's looking to trade off Glaive Zuka, Haunted Creeper, and Mad Scientist, which are all fantastic 2-drops for the Face Hunter in the early game. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see him actually keep those. Maybe trade off the Glaive Zuka in case he doesn't want the weapon immediately. But both of the Haunted Creeper and the Mad Scientist are fantastic drops for Face Hunter. Damon considering to mulligan out his cards. Likely going to see both Face Hunter decks, so we'll see which one out-aggresses the other, and we'll see which one applies pressure. The problem with Face Hunter is that as it trades on the board, the cards become less effective. So if either of these players are forced to deal with big cards or forced to deal with their opponent's boards, they will unfortunately lose value in their own face cards. So we do see that Nico's story keeps all 3 of his cards, electing not to get rid of the Glaive Zuka, Haunted Creeper, or Mad Scientist. Damon plays a Web Spinner on turn 1. Pretty good card, 1/1, but Nico's story will answer with a Haunted Creeper of his own. So unfortunately, Damon will have to trade in the Web Spinner if he wants to get rid of this Haunted Creeper. But the upside for Damon is that he will get a beast off of the Web Spinner's Death Rattle. Instead electing to coin out a 3-drop, and that will result in the Animal Companion and Misha, the 4/4 with Taunt. That's an okay card for Face Hunter. You don't really want to see that. We'd really love to see our notorious Huffer, but unfortunately the RNG was not with Damon on that play. Instead, he'll trade in the Haunted Creeper and the Glaive Zuka into Misha to clear her off the board. Damon will elect to use his Web Spinner to clear off one of those Ethereal Spiders, gain a Beast card, and reduce Nico's board down to only 1 minion. We see pretty large cards in Nico's hand at the moment. Sludge Belcher, Dr. Boom, Harrison Jones are all cards you don't want to see, especially in the 1 to 3 mana stages of this game. Mad Scientist likely going to be played next turn. Hopefully he'll get a freezing trap onto the Mad Scientist Death Rattle, which would be nice to counter any aggression that Damon may exhibit here in the next couple of turns. Knife Juggler is going to be played as well as a Web Spinner, hoping to get that Knife Juggle onto the Ethereal Spider, and he doesn't get it, actually goes to the face. Unfortunately, that leaves that Spider to clear out the Web Spinner if needed, or it leaves 1 damage to Damon's face. Nico Story playing the Mad Scientist, hoping to apply more aggression in the form of a 2/2. He will elect to trade the Ethereal Spider into the Web Spinner and actually clear off the Knife Juggler as well. Pretty good play considering that Knife Juggler can get a ton of juggles in the Face Hunter deck, given that the Face Hunter plays so many low-cost minions multiple times per turn. It can start to get insane. This board's left with a Mad Scientist on board and nothing on Damon's side. Nico Story gaining the board advantage for the moment, although marginal given that it's a Mad Scientist. Again, draws are not so great. He drew an Animal Companion, which would be better than drawing Harrison Jones or Dr. Boom at this point in the game. So we'll see if he plays Animal Companion next turn, hopefully looking for that Huffer for that 4 damage to the face, as our beloved Huffer has 4 damage and charge. Damon taking his turn, surveying the field as best he can so that he doesn't make the wrong play, electing to play a Scavenging Hyena. Scavenging Hyena and Stone Tusk Boar coming out. He'll trade the Stone Tusk Boar in to give the Scavenging Hyena +1/+1. I'm sorry, actually +2/+1. Huffer comes out from the Animal Companion. Absolutely what Nico wanted to see. We'll see an Ironbeak Owl silence the Hyena and trade in the Mad Scientist to get that secret played. And Huffer's going to the face like he always should be. Kazan Mystic actually being played by Damon to steal that secret away and use it against Nico Story. Pretty good play with the Kazan Mystic. Don't see it much anymore. Decks are less and less favoring the Kazan Mystic. But he'll check for Freezing Trap, given that he knew that that was the trap that was just stolen from him. And trade back in that Ironbeak Owl. Hopefully going to use that Silence later on for another Death Rattle or Battle Cry minion. Meanwhile, Huffer with his 4 damage still sitting on the board, most likely ready to go face. Huffer's ready to charge. You see him snorting there and kicking up dirt. Huffer's ready to battle and is going to go to the face, definitely, reducing Damon down to 20 health. Pretty even neck and neck battle here between Neko Story and Damon, as Neko Story sits at 21 and Damon sits at 20. We're getting into the later stages of the game now, where Harrison Jones and Dr. Boom become more and more favorable. Wouldn't surprise me if next turn we see Dr. Boom played. Put out that aggressive 7-7 in the 2-1-1 Boom bot and really force home the idea that Neko Story's in control here. The Kazan Mystic already on the board for Damon is a solid choice. It's a 4-3 just by itself. It did steal a Freezing Trap earlier and sent that Ironbeak Owl back to Neko Story's hand. It's already paid off. He'll instead use his own Ironbeak Owl to silence Neko Story's Sludge Belcher, reducing that 3-5 taunt to just a 3-5 attack minion. He'll use Quick Shot to hurry up and get rid of Huffer, as Huffer's already dealt 8 damage. Absolutely been a pain for Damon. He's going to get rid of him and apply more pressure to the face in the form of his hero ability. Knife Juggler draw from Neko Story is not that bad, but he doesn't have anything really to combo with it at the moment other than a Potted Shredder. Dr. Boom does come out, bringing with him his 2-1-1 Boom bots. Quite an intimidating 7-7 on the board facing Damon. He'll look to hopefully neutralize, though he just played one Ironbeak Owl to neutralize the Sludge Belcher. Probably kicking himself for playing that Ironbeak Owl so quickly, but that's alright. Damon considering his options, weighing how he's going to get through this 7-7, apply more pressure to Neko's face. He had a favorable trade earlier in the matchup, getting so much damage through. But now that he's facing a 7-7, it's a bit more restrictive as to whether or not he can go face or not. So he'll likely look to deal with his Dr. Boom very quickly, because as Dr. Boom stays on the board, obviously a 7-7 is going to do a ton of damage to the face. He'll like to play Lotheb, a 5-5, increasing all of Neko Story's spells by 5 mana, but luckily for Neko, he doesn't have any spells. So Neko Story, unaffected by the Lotheb Battle Cry, will instead trade in a Battle Bot into the Ironbeak Owl and go 4 damage to the face, thus putting Damon even lower in the health pool and even more dangerously teetering on the edge from damage from Neko. Currently, he's got 11 damage on the board, plus 2 from his hero ability, and any juggles he might get from the Knife Juggler. He's going to elect to play the Knife Juggler and the Savannah Highmane. He'll get a Knife Juggle into Lotheb, trade out, get 4 damage again from a Boom Bot. That's 8 damage on the face from 2-1-1 Boom Bots. That's absolutely the best RNG he could see from Dr. Boom, and he gets a Dr. Boom attack in there for 7 damage. Really critical Dr. Boom play here, and it's really turned the tides for Neko Story from that early aggression from Damon. I couldn't imagine a better Dr. Boom play in any match. Neko Story's board is quite heavy, with 13 plus 3 is 16, 17, 18 damage staring at it. Damon, considering his options, it looks a little bleak at this point. He calls well played, and he gives up, thus putting Neko Story over 2-1 to Damon. So it looks like we'll go into our final match of this best of 5 series, or not our final match, but we'll look to see if Damon can bring it back to 2-2. So when we come back, we're going to go on a brief break. When we come back, we'll get back into the semifinals match between Damon and Neko Story, and we will see if Damon can tie the series up or if Nico Story will go on to win 3-1. Please stay tuned, and thanks for joining us on the Rusty Horn Weekly Series from Random Championship Series. If you'd like to check out our website, please go to randomcs.com. Sign up there for the Rusty Horn Weekly Series or any of our available LOL tournaments. We have LOL tournaments in any bracket from Gold, Platinum to ARAM. Rusty Horn's open to anybody, regardless of level, regardless of rank, so please apply for the Rusty Horn Weekly Tournament, and we'll see you next week in this Rusty Horn Weekly Series. Back after this brief break.
Busy night, but there's always room for another.
It's Macy's Super Saturday Sale with all-day special Saturday.
So, sorry about that, guys. We are waiting on Nico Story and Damon to finish up, get ready for this potentially last match if Nico Story can swing the series, or if Damon can restart and reignite this series and bring it up 2-2. We'll see if Damon can turn this around and make it a best of 5 truly to game number 5. We're in game number 4 waiting on Nico Story and Damon. This is the Rusty Horn Weekly Series brought to you by Random CS. If you want to visit randomcs.com, you can see all of our tournaments available both in League and in Hearthstone. On the Hearthstone page, you can register for the Rusty Horn Series. And if you want to check out the League tournaments, you can view our myriad of tournaments from Gold to Platinum to ARAM tournaments. Right now, we're going to jump into the match, and we're going to see how Nico Story can take this series versus Damon. Both players getting ready. They seem to have challenged each other and everything. Maybe a slight error in the mulligan part of the phase. See if this clears up. Apologize for the technical difficulties. We're actually going to drop out really quickly. See if we can get this figured out. See if we can get both of these guys spectated and get the started. We'll jump back in, this time on the perspective of Damon, and see what we can. We'll watch from the eyes of Damon in this side of the tournament and see how they play in this match. Damon again bringing his warrior deck versus Nico Story's rogue deck. We saw Nico start the series very strong with this rogue, very aggressive rogue deck in the beginning. He actually won 1-0 against Damon's warrior deck, I believe, and Damon electing to go very aggressive early opener with the fiery war axe on turn 2, using that 3 damage to the face. Nico will answer with a rogue dagger of his own and pass the turn. Loot Hoarder dropped from Damon is a pretty good chance at drawing cards. He'll like to play the Acolyte of Pain instead. He's looking to get as much of the damage as he can out onto Nico Story, as well as optimizing as many draws as he can from that Acolyte of Pain. Unfortunately, the coin Deadly Poison play will reduce that Acolyte of Pain only to 1 draw. Edwin Van Cleef coming out after 2 card plays. That'll boost him to a 6/6 minion on turn 3, which is pretty intimidating. Thankfully, Damon has the Fiery War Axe to deal with that. He did draw the Grim Patron from the 1 draw that he got off the Acolyte of Pain, and he drew an Inner Rage after that. So he has an activator to get an extra Grim Patron at this moment if he wants to. We see a Death Spite in hand as well. So as soon as he deals 4 damage twice with the Death Bite, he'll get his Whirlwind off from the Death Bite and potentially activate more than 1 Grim Patron. He likes to play a Gnomish Inventor, drawing that Warsong Commander. More and more cards are favoring the Grim Patron combo in Damon's hand. He's got Grim Patron, Inner Rage, Warsong Commander, Battle Rage, and Death's Bite. All of these cards can ultimately make a huge combo for Patron Warrior and really turn the tide and absolutely deal a ton of damage to Nico Story in a short amount of time. We see SI7 clearing off the Gnomish Inventor and a South Sea Deckhand coming out with charge due to Nico Story's weapon. We see yet another draw for the Grim Patron combo in Whirlwind from Damon. He's currently facing 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage on the board from Nico Story. That's a lot of damage just staring at him in the face. He's going to need to answer at least one of these cards to hopefully protect himself a little bit more. He can clear the SI7 with the Fiery War Axe if he wants to. Instead, he's going to elect to play Battle Rage and draw 1 card for 2 mana. He actually draws his second Battle Rage off of Battle Rage. Not exactly the card you want to see, but looks like he's electing to play the second Battle Rage to hopefully draw into something a little better than Battle Rage. He's going to second guess himself on that one and consider another play. Actually, he does decide. So he will play his second Battle Rage, draws into his second Whirlwind. Now sitting with a lot of combo cards in hand. 2 Whirlwinds, a Warsong Commander, an Inner Rage, a Grim Patron, and a Death Spot. All of those are incredible combos for the Grim Patron, but he's forced to sacrifice 1 Whirlwind to clear out the SI7 agent. The Azure Drake is being played by Nico Story. He'll get a draw off of that. He's got 6 damage on the board as well as 3 damage in his hand via the Rogue Dagger. He elects not to hit with the Rogue Dagger, instead probably waiting for Blade Flurry so that he can clear out any Grim Patron plays, because it would seem to me, if I were in Nico's shoes, that he's looking for Grim Patron combos. So pretty smart not to play that Rogue weapon and keep it around for Blade Flurry if needed. See a Frothing Berserker, again, another combo out of the Grim Patron combo list. So massive damage possibilities coming from Nico. or I'm sorry, massive damage coming from Damon. I apologize. Warsong Commander, Damon thinking about playing the Warsong Commander to start off on some of this combo, but he'll elect to play the Frothing Berserker plus Inner Rage to boost up some attack and use that to go to Edwin Van Cleef. Unfortunately, Frothing Berserker had to trade into Edwin Van Cleef there. 6 damage on the board, and Nico Story is a bit too intimidating. We see a well-played called by Nico Story. We see an Eviscerate combo after Blade Flurry, dealing 5 damage, plus 4 damage from the Azure Drake. Nico Story will sweep this series 3-1. So, good job by Nico Story. He will advance to the final round against his opponent, who we will determine very shortly. So that was our semifinal round for the Rusty Horn Weekly Series. We'll be right back and get into the finals match of the Rusty Horn Series and bring you the conclusion of this tournament. Please check out randomcs.com for all Hearthstone and League tournament news, as well as signing up for any tournament available in the Random CS. There are certain requirements in the League tournaments, but there is no requirement for the Rusty Horn tournament. We strongly urge players to join in and test your luck against everyone else in this tournament. This isn't the only matches we had today. We started with a tournament with well over 100 players, so you have plenty of chances to get in here and make a name for yourself. We'll be back after this break. Thanks for sticking with us.
Soup separates for her. Now an extra 20% off.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Random Championship Series Rusty Horn Weekly. Unfortunately, our final match looks to have been sidetracked a little bit. Our opponent for Nico's story did not show up tonight, did not return after 10 minutes, unfortunately was disqualified via tournament rules. So that concludes the Rusty Horn Weekly Series with